Hello there, welcome back everyone, it's Has here with the second episode of Salmon Report. Still figuring out how we do the series, but I read a lot of your feedback from the first episode and they were super helpful, so thank you very much. I'm also quite happy there seems to be a huge interest in a series around only Salmon Run, so I'll definitely keep doing this. The big question really is how often we should do the episodes. Now the first episode was probably too long and this one might be a bit too short. So today what I'd like to ask is if you watched both episodes of Salmon Report, what did you like about them and what do you think you missed in each episode? The feedback would be really helpful so I can see what kind of format would be the best for the series. Currently I'm leaning towards a weekly report on the weapons and stages and talk about the most troublesome weapons and recommendations, with potential bonus episodes if there are really cool combinations happening in the middle of this week, such as this one actually. But before we get into weapons in this episode, this is a big week for Salmon Run, as on the 1st of October we're getting our first random rotation shift for Grizzco, which if you didn't know is a special Salmon Run rotation where all weapons you can get are completely random. But Mr. Grizzco also put in a special reward weapon called a Grizzco weapon that you can get, which are bonkers overpowered and fun to use. The first Grizzco weapon we can use will be the Grizzco Stringer, so Stringer fans can be happy, and it might also be a grand opportunity for those who don't like the new bows that much to shine and change their minds. The Grizzco Stringer is a special stringer only for Salmon Run that can fire I believe 9 arrows instead of the usual 3, and each of them doing very good damage with an excellent charge time too for taking out greater salmonids. This will be the best time honestly to play Salmon Run if you haven't before, or you need to decide when to make some time for it, as the random weapon rotations are incredibly fun and chaotic, not to mention the new reward shades are great too. So again, this will happen on the 1st of October, so prepare and don't miss it. Now this week we have some pretty interesting rotations on the other hand, with the hardest being the current one at the start of the week in my opinion. But the next one on Sockeye Station is going to be really good, and I want to make sure you all know why and how you can benefit from it. There are 4 weapons I'd like to focus on in this episode for the week that I think most people would struggle on, and I think I can give a few tips to make the experience better, but also change some opinions on some of these weapons as they can be really powerful. The weapons are gonna be Carbon Roller, Ballpoint Splatling, the Reef Lux 450, and the Explosher. So it's the first 2 rotations. Some of the weapons I can show a live Salmon Run example, for the others I'll try to do my best in the shooting range. The third rotation I think is fairly standard, also strong, so I don't think that's going to be too challenging with the weapons, it's going to be rather the waves. So the Carbon Roller first. The important thing to notice here and change your playstyle to is that the Carbon Roller is the weakest roller for rolling in most cases, and it's much more advised to use your flings instead. As you can see, if you try to roll over chums or cohawks, you will bounce back, and that can backfire really quickly by falling down somewhere or getting knocked into something you don't want to. But on the other hand, your flings are very strong and you can also fling very quickly to destroy almost everything. So use it like a gun, use your flings instead of rolling. But it's pretty much what I wanted to mention for the Carbon Roller, since I've seen a few people trying to roll into cohawks. A much more interesting weapon right now instead is the Ballpoint Splatling, which is a special Splatling with 2 firing modes. One very short range but powerful burst, and a long range normal Splatling mode. Both of them should be used especially in Salmon Run, where you are in so many different situations, as this makes the Ballpoint a really versatile weapon good for all situations. When you charge it up, the first 1 second of you shooting will be always burst firing, and then you switch to normal gunfire. The trick is that the ballpoint can recharge itself anytime, so you don't have to use up all your charges. In fact, you shouldn't. If you recharge at any point, it will continue shooting with its Splatling fire, but if you charge it past the 3rd quarter of the second charge, or fully charge it, it will always swap back to burst fire for a second. If you learn this technique, you will always be able to control the ballpoint at any point in the game to swap between short burst mode and long range firing, which is incredibly useful and night and day difference compared to someone just playing with it. It's good versus every single Salmonid and possibly a really good Kohozuna damage gun too. For the next rotation, I'd like to briefly touch on the Reef Lux Stringer, as I know a lot of players didn't like it in the previous Salmon Run rotation, but it's actually really strong. It's the best painting weapon in the whole game, so always make sure to paint as much as you can with it, and give room to your coworkers, as that's your main strength. Additionally, the tip to make the best use of it and best damage is to use its partial charge shots instead of fully charging it. This way, not only you do more damage, but you'll be clearing bosses and Quahawks a lot more efficiently without locking yourself to a place for too long. Just tapping your fire and going into close range with your shotgun shots is not bad, but it leaves you very vulnerable. So I think the best way to use the Reef Lux is with the partial charge shots. So practice those instead of the level 2 shots. Then we arrive to the champion of this week, the Explosher. This slusher has the longest range and highest damage in its family. It's technically an artillery and you should also use it as one. While it is somewhat only okay against lesser salmonids, it is your ultimate boss killer. It has very long range and a good arc to deal with any of the annoying bosses like the steelhead from a long range or slamming lids. For this, it should be played similarly like a charger, focusing on bosses and splatting instead of collecting eggs and painting, and certainly avoid close range encounters with salmonids. For the biggest tip for the Explosher is, it's the one weapon that is actually capable of splatting fly fishes by itself with ease. Just aim your ink splats into the launcher like a grenade and fly fishes will be gone. It's by far the best weapon for dealing with the most annoying boss in the whole game mode, and because of that I consider this rotation also one of the best opportunities to climb your ranks and farm some shells. Finally, a bonus tip for Salmon Run on this episode, and it's about Kohozuna. In this special King Salmonid wave, you get an egg launcher to use against the king and hurl your golden eggs at him to deal damage. Often, we find that there aren't enough eggs, or we just don't have time to deal with other bosses during this wave and also splat Kohozuna. Remember that you can use these eggs against other bosses to instantly splat them and make 3 eggs out of a single one. But that is a wrap for episode 2 of Salmon Report, everyone. Bear with me for these first few episodes until I figure out the best way to do the series, but I can't wait to see where this will go, and hopefully we can also further build and improve the Salmon Run community for Splatoon. Thank you so much for the overwhelming support on both my channel and for this series specifically. I'm glad PvE is also very popular in Splatoon and there's interest in this kind of content. If you have any feedback, you know the drill. I'm very happy to read everything, and the question for this week's episode is, would you prefer a short episode for every rotation with tips, or do you like this weekly format more? Thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you the next time. Bye-bye.